and welcome. My name is Christina Hipsley. I'm the General Manager of the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce here in the UK. And every year we organise a series of events called the Moving to Portugal shows and seminars, so that we can tell any British resident that's interested in moving to Portugal or buying a house there all about what they can expect if and when they move to Portugal. And we'll tell them everything about where to buy properties, what the legal and tax benefits are of moving to Portugal, what sort of lifestyle you're going to have, and any other questions you might have. Now, our next live event, if you want to come and meet us all in person, is in October 2020 here in the UK. But in the meantime, I'm meeting some of our chamber members live on screen for you to hear what they have to tell you about moving to Portugal. So first today, I'd like to welcome Miguel Palmeiro, who's the sales director of Vilamoura World in the beautiful Algarve. I'm going to ask Miguel a few questions and he's going to tell me the answers, and then by the end of the seminar, you'll know a lot more about the Algarve in particular. So Miguel, just to kick off, can you tell us who are you, what do you do, and tell us a little bit about Vilamoura?
Well, Christina, thank you so much for this opportunity and for this excellent initiative. I think it's a way to bring us a little bit closer in this confinement period. And hopefully, although it does not replace at all the physical contact, but for sure it mitigates a little bit more. As you mentioned, I'm the sales director of Vilamoura World. I'm married. I have two small kids, Marianne and Jaime. They go to the international school here in Vilamoura. Well, Vilamoura is started in 1966 with the aim of being one of the best resorts in Europe, and in fact, it answers to its size: 1.7 hectares, 5 golf courses, and the biggest marina in Portugal with 825 boats. Vilamoura as a reference, as a destination. In the Algarve and also in Europe, and we're also now getting more and more visitors from outside of Europe, which is excellent. Also, it's a great place to live, and of course, a preferred destination for holidays. We're also diversifying our activities into equestrian and sailing, and of course, also with its facilities, it allows to live all year round with private clinics and supermarkets. So you will find in Vilamoura everything you need to live everyday life. Vilamoura is the master planner of this site, and so we still have 500,000 square meters to build. So it means that we still have a lot of work ahead and already a place of success. So we have a bright future ahead of us.
Well, I have to say, Miguel, you've given us a lot of very good reasons why people choose the Algarve to live in, and particularly the Vilamoura area. And I think I'm right in thinking there are over 60,000 British people already living in the Algarve and in some other parts of Portugal. So bearing in mind that, Miguel, that the British do love Portugal already, but particularly the Algarve, can you tell us a little bit about the different regions of the Algarve and how they compare? How does Vilamoura, which, for example, sits in the central region of the Algarve, how does it compare to the other regions of the Algarve?
Well, the Algarve is for sure, not only for the British, but also internationally. It's the biggest foreign residence region in Portugal. Also, let me tell you a little bit more about the Algarve. The Algarve has the second biggest GDP in Portugal. So it's not just that it's a touristic destination, but also a vibrant economy. And at the same time, it has one of the lowest density in terms of population in Portugal as well. It's below the average. So it really brings two strong elements of why choosing the Algarve. It's not that it's just this resort with no other conditions. So what we're seeing here is that, in fact, we have a vibrant economy, solid numbers in terms of real estate as well, as the Algarve has the second highest per square meter price in Portugal as well. So it means that it's not that it's that expensive, but it means that it's a consolidated market, and it means that there is a lot of a lot of trust when everybody decides to come and invest in the Algarve overall, which is of course also a strong market into from the Portuguese nationals. So it means that we have a great mix of nationalities, and the Algarve has been very smart in being local, meaning you do have the local feel of being here and living with all the needs of being in another country. But at the same time, we were able to also adapt, and you can find your Tesco next door, and also as well, most of the people, 99% of the people also speak very good English. So I think the Algarve for the British has been, and it will continue being, a great destination for sure. Yeah, the Algarve is in fact also, it has a lot of variety of geography. So you can find from the east side to the west side in terms of coast, longer and miles to loose beaches to the west, and um, smaller but very picturesque small beaches into the east and towards Lagos, where you have really more kind of fishermen villages with more traditional view over it, where you come over to the central Algarve. You have more modern developments included in resorts. And so you can find, in terms of coastline, you can find a lot of different options from big houses, flats, included in resorts, homes, guaranteed income, and all of that. So there is a whole lot of variety of possibilities. But also, let me talk to you about the rustic area. So we have also the hills, and it's very close. It's about half an hour to get to have the best of the two worlds. So you can have, actually, we have a parcel here, a piece of land in that we call cottages, quintinhas. And it's really the way we market it is your country house next to the sea. And it's really the way it is. It's really something that you do have that opportunity of having all the amenities, golf, beach, but at the same time, if you want to reclude, not only you can do that in Vilamoura, of course, in our large plots, but also you can do it in the hills, speaking the Algarve in general. It is in fact a great destination to be, not only because of the things I've mentioned before, but also I think I would like to add two dimensions to that. As I mentioned before, we have a very low population density, but also it is so important to us, a dimension that is called time. Here in Vilamoura, you can enjoy time, in fact, and you can get access to international airport in less than 1 hour. You can, here in Vilamoura, I take my kids, it takes 5 minutes to get them from my home to the international school, and I take 7 minutes. I can't even almost listen to a full music on the car from home to work. So, and every time of the day. So it seems that it's a reality that here you can have your return not only on the very solid in real estate market, but also your return on time. It will give you time. Maybe money, well, it does it, at some extent buy happiness, but for sure in Vilamoura, you can buy time.
Time is in many ways happiness, and I think certainly this month, and we're talking now April and May 2020, I think we've all learned that time is the most precious thing of all, and quality of life. And on that note, Miguel, tell us something. How does the price of the cost of living, or what is the cost of living in the Algarve as compared to the UK? Just give us a couple of examples.
Well,
cost
sure.
every day.
It's when we talk about the Algarve, of course, then you have many different regions, and of course, like the UK, where you have London, which is much more expensive than the other regions. So I tried to pick up some specific differences. But if you like, a person from London has 105% more higher income than someone in the Algarve. And for example, as I mentioned, an international school in London costs 240% more in London than here in the Algarve. But for example, an imported beer is 80% more expensive in Birmingham than it is in the Algarve. And and rent prices, for example, are 254% more expensive in London than in the Algarve. And for example, groceries in Manchester are over 40% more expensive than in the Algarve. So that gives you a little bit of course, wages are higher in England than they are here, but not into that different extent. So I would add to that in fact, if you have that income capacity, at the same time you have a cheaper market. If we compare, for example, and again, let me give you figures that are comparable. Lisbon per square meter compares to, the average price compares to Birmingham, for example. So we're talking about somewhere in the region of £170,000 per unit in average. So that compares to Birmingham. If we talk about London, it's 450,000. And that means if we look at the UK 20 city index and Portugal's average price, in general, it's 50% higher to buy in England than in Portugal, or 50% less. If we let me.
So we're talking about house prices now. Yes,
yes, exactly.
50% more expensive. Yes, exactly.
Yes. So in terms of cost of living, it's much cheaper overall. Restaurants, I just gave you some examples, but also in terms of real estate, although we've seen an increase in the last years in Portugal, it's still very attractive to come and invest. And if you look at the cost of living, and at the same time a growing steady price of real estate, but still very competitive, then you have a perfect place to come and invest.
I also can see here in the UK, Miguel, because we take an awful lot of calls from people, British people interested in moving to Portugal. There are some very attractive tax benefits to moving to Portugal, which obviously our chamber, we have many seminars on this subject, and we will be addressing this subject in detail in some other meetings that we will be making available online. But I wanted to ask you, Miguel, have you noticed that there's an increase in people buying their principal homes in the Algarve? It's not just a second home destination for foreigners now, is it? Yeah, people are moving their main residences down to the Algarve. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. And we can actually empirically see every day that people are coming into these new homes. We see a lot of foreign license plates and increasing British license plates as well. But and also what we see is that this confinement made people think a lot about where they live, how they live, about their space, about how can I in fact work remotely without being having the need to go every day to an office, and I can basically do that from anywhere. So if even you join that with tax incentives, with a great place to live, 100 days of sun that you get here, and at the same time an international airport. Just on a side note, Ryanair just announced that they will start their flights in July 1st, and 60% of the flights will be focused in the Algarve. Really? So there will be 11 daily flights from Manchester, 2 daily flights from, 11 weekly flights from Manchester, 2 daily flights from 3 different airports in London, and also a big increase from the East Midlands flight frequency. So they're really betting on the flight frequency to the Algarve and to Faro. So, and you have an international airport 20 minutes away, as I said, less than an hour from any point in the Algarve. So what you would see here is that people now, and everything is now more human-centric, in the sense that we are giving more importance to how we want to live and where we want to live. And again, those dimensions of space and time, and also security. Portugal is the third most secure country in the world, and the first continental, because the other two is Iceland and New Zealand, which are islands. So it's in fact a very strong incentive.
Okay. Can I ask you, Miguel, just before we finish, Vilamoura, the Algarve, is obviously a very attractive area, and Vilamoura in particular has a lot to recommend it. Can you tell us, apart from you obviously loving living in Vilamoura itself with your family and your children, can you tell us what have you actually got to sell in Vilamoura at the moment? Can anybody buy anything in Vilamoura? And what sort of prices are we talking about?
Well, sure. We launched Central, as the name says. It's the last plot located in downtown Vilamoura, 5-minute walk to the marina, to all the amenities already existing, and in the old area of Vilamoura. We're talking about semi-detached villas from 2 to 4 bedrooms, and those start in the region of £570,000. I just made some brief research, and if you would buy a similar one in Manchester, you would start at least in 870 pounds. Well, so there's a big difference on the same thing, and also then you have a minimum of 3.5%. It's not guaranteed, but it's what the market yields right now, between 3.5 and 4%, depending on the type of usage that you get.
About rental yield when you're not there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and also we have Uptown, which also have 2-bedroom apartments to 3-bedroom villas. And starting at 349,000 2-bedroom villas. We don't have any more apartments. And if you look at it, it's in fact, for example, it's if you look at generally the price, it's about 470,000 pounds for a 2-bedroom flat, but here we have 349,000 pounds for a 2-bedroom villa. So in fact, we have Uptown, we have villas at the price of apartments. So which now coming to the way people want to live, with having open spaces, leisure areas, and at the same time having a place to work. I think it really fits that needs. And so the way we've designed our projects, in fact, are perfectly matched to these needs nowadays.
To this new lifestyle that we're all embracing. Well, Miguel, thank you. That's given us a very good brief overview of what living in the Algarve means, and specifically how people might think about living in Vilamoura. So just to finish, if anybody wants any more information, I'm assuming you're more than happy to answer a personal phone call or have a quick Zoom meeting if anybody has any questions. And we'll put those details at the end of this interview on the screen so people can call you directly or send you an email. Is that correct?
That is correct. And in fact, this confinement, what we've done is to also develop online instruments to being able to do virtual views. So if anyone, without having to come from anywhere in the UK, we can actually come to you. In fact, we did a great successful initiative, see our home from your home. And so this is another proposal that I would do, is that get in contact with us and we'll make a video viewing before you can come, and then when you come you actually see it for real. So you can also visit at the virtual views on www.central.vilamoura.com or www.uptown.vilamoura.com or through our sales at vilamouраworld.com as email. So that would be the easiest way to contact us.
Well, thank you, Miguel. We'll make sure we put all those email addresses on the next screen at the end of this video. But Miguel, I'd like to thank you very, very much for joining me in the Chamber of Commerce, the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce here in the UK today. Thank you very much. See you very soon in the Algarve. Thank you.
See you. Thank you.